There are so many reasons to protest at No King's Day 3. What are yours?
Americans have been watching videos of ICE tackling a young mother, tear gas being used in a Chicago residential neighborhood, and the smashing of car windows. Have some of these raids gone too far?
No, I think they haven't gone far enough.
President Trump launched this war of choice against Iran, despite advice he got from a number of senior planners and military leaders.
The Pentagon now preparing to ask Congress for an additional $200 billion to fund the fight.
The Department of Justice has posted
previously missing FBI interviews related to sexual assault allegations against President Trump.
The White House unveiling plans for a massive new ballroom in a rebuilt East Wing.
The Trump administration has initiated funding cuts and stopped research programs they say do not meet the objectives of the administration.
Are ICE agents even remotely trained to handle security at airports?
We could have had TSA paid by the end of the week, but the president said no deals.
I would have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States.
Good evening, everyone. It is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. You are in for a treat tonight because your Contrarian family has been out all over the country and gathering material from all over the country on No King's 3. It has turned out to, in fact, be the largest day of protest in American history. At least 8 million people, and there are about 100 protests still to go that are coming in from the West Coast and Hawaii. And we are in every single congressional district, in some cases more than one, in every red state, blue state. The breadth of this day is really what is impressive. The flagship event was, of course, in Minneapolis. We're going to have footage with our wonderful Katie Thang. But there were, frankly, turnouts all over the country. And the one I went to in D.C. was different than any other that I've been to. And we'll take a look at that as well. So why don't we take a look at some of the footage we have. This is from D.C. This is the riser that they set up. Now, what they did in D.C. was extremely smart. They located this in Southeast D.C., which is a strongly African-American neighborhood. And you can see that bridge. It looks like the arches in the back. There are frogs. Those arches are from the Frederick Douglass Bridge, which we walked over. We'll have some shots of that. But you can see the crowd was enormous. They had not only a location that was accessible to a more diverse crowd, but their speakers were all community activists or pastors. The music was contemporary and African American. They met people where they were. And I got to think that this is a lesson, frankly, for the larger movement. And that is, if you want to have a more diverse crowd, go to where more diverse people are. And you can see the array of wonderful signs. And here we go over that bridge. It was extremely windy at times. You can see the flag fluttering. But throughout, there was music, drum beating. This is now on the other side of the bridge. You can see National Stadium, where the Nationals play. And you can see here, back in Minneapolis, we're now going national. And this is the enormous banner that was rolled out, putting monarch butterflies. And you can see some of the crowd gathering. The estimates are over 200,000, making it the largest protest in Minnesota history. And you'd be surprised in DC and other locations how much Minnesota, the place, the name resonates. And people come out and say, I'm here because of Minnesota. These are people in DC or people who traveled a great distance to come to DC, and they are still infused with Minneapolis. And someone made a analogy looking at that bridge that we saw, the Frederick Douglass Bridge, that it reminded them of the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Well, I think the Edmund Pettus moment in this movement was probably the murder of those two beautiful human beings, Renee Good, and of course, the wonderful nurse, Mr. Pettus. And I think that has infused this movement with a sense of martyrdom, a sense of seriousness. And here you can see drone footage. How do you like this? Drone footage. And there is the bandstand. They had some of the performers that I got to see on Friday at the Kennedy Center, including Joan Baez. And I'll tell you, the hairs of my arm were standing up listening to her sing. The times they are changing, and don't turn me around. It was a throwback, but also it was an inspiration, kind of a handoff from one generation to another. Here's Clayton, North Carolina. These places are not deep blue havens, and yet you can see people turned out. It's also a younger crowd, you'll notice. In part, that's because, again, clever organizing. This is during most kids' spring break. So they're off from school, they're off from some of their sporting events and schedules. So you saw a lot of kids out. I saw a lot of dogs out, which makes me happy, of course. And here are people, veterans were out. They're in strong numbers. And those signs, they keep coming out, and they are creative. They're wonderful. It was interesting that the emphasis this time was really on the crowds themselves. Here we are in Provo, Utah. You don't get much redder than Utah, and yet lining the streets. And we saw this all over Red America. We'll see some footage later from Florida, if you can believe it. And here we go, flies with, let's see, I'm trying to read the signs as they go by. But excuse me. Here we go. Ice crushed. There's bands, there's singing. A lot of music today. I had a choir out in DC, which is composed of different choirs from all around DC. These are church choirs, ones that have just sprung up, and they turn out. And one of the leaders of that choir told me that they show up at metro centers where a lot of government workers go to work and come out of work, and they sing for them and to them because they know what government workers are going through. Many of them, of course, laid off, others forced to do work that they really find distasteful. But that gives you just a little sample of where we are. So I want to bring in my partner in crime, as it were, who defends people accused of crimes, unfairly accused of crimes. Norm, how are you?
Jen, so great to be with you to celebrate this wonderful No King's Day. I was so privileged to make my way from our Sabbath worship to the crowd of marchers coming in the opposite direction. I had my Contrarian cap with me and I was bundled up. Cold winds, but warm hearts in DC, all around the country, all over the world.
Absolutely.
With over 8 million people and over 3,000 protests on all 7 continents, Jen.
Yes.
Even in Antarctica, we got a little hint of that Antarctic breeze, only a small amount in DC today. But what an incredible day.
And I think the number is now over 3,200, maybe 3,300. So they keep checking in. And frankly, a gathering of 20 people, 100 people in a place where they didn't know there were other Democrats is just as important as a turnout in a big blue city of 100,000. Norm, we were talking before we went on about kind of different marches, different communities. Tell us a little bit about the community, the sorts of people you saw. You were going from Arlington over the Memorial Bridge, and that's in Northwest DC, close to government offices, close to monuments, where a lot of tourists go, and frankly, some of the more wealthy people of DC. So who did you see turning out there?
Jen, it was a blend. All ages, all faiths, every ethnic, religious group, people representing the full mosaic of America. I think it probably did not trend quite as young as the crowd at the DC, the DC official event where the speakers kicked off. And our wonderful friend, and she is such a good friend of the democracy movement. And of course, as DC residents, she represents me too at Free DC, Kaya Chatterjee. I know you'll have more from her. She really put together something special, but the folks coming from the other direction were very special too. The funny, clever signs and the people bringing their family members, everybody from grandparents down to newborn infants swaddled up. Some of the marchers looked like they wanted to take the blankets from those babies. It looks so sunny. It looks so sunny, Jen, but we all, we powered through it together.
Absolutely. We saw a lot of kids in strollers. I saw some dogs in strollers, you know, little dogs that can't walk that far that they were put in strollers. So that's always special. A lot of dogs walking on their own 4 feet as well. Well, I think we have some more DC footage. Can we bring that up? Let's see.
Hi, I'm here with George Washington. Not the original, but a very nice facsimile. George, what's your other name in real life?
Hi, my name's William, and I grew up around D.C.
And what made you put on a George Washington costume?
So, 250 years ago, we kicked tyranny out of this country, and I think that the tyrants have come back. We are engaging in war that is not popular with the people. In the Declaration of Independence, it actually says that the king was obstructing the naturalization of foreigners. And I think that every single person that is here likely emigrated here. So you can't just stop people from coming.
Absolutely. And what do you do?
I'm not going to disclose my job, unfortunately.
That's quite all right. What's the most important thing for you for reformers for the pro-democracy movement to do?
I think the most important thing for pro-democracy people is to first go out and vote in November, but also just be very aware and be telling our Congress people not to pass this SAVE Act that Trump has said he will not pass any more legislation if this doesn't pass. And the specific thing is that Mike Johnson was caught on a hot mic saying that it would decrease the people voting to like 12 to 18%. So there's no world in which that isn't just a plan for politicians to pick the people voting rather than the voters picking the people representing them.
Thanks so much, George.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Hi, I'm here with the Statue of Liberty.
Welcome, welcome. I hope you'll cross the bridge with us.
We absolutely will. What's your name?
Renee Boyle.
And where are you from, Renee?
Falls Church, Virginia.
What brought you out today?
Well, I want to be part of this movement to show that the government needs to change and the people need to take control of the government again. We need to re-elect people who really are looking out for the average person and, of course, the immigrants.
Your sign says 62,000 immigrants in prison. What do you think about what ICE is doing, Border Patrol is doing?
Oh, it's awful. It's awful. There's no reason for those people to be empowered to kill people. They're just infringing on everyone's free speech and right to assembly.
What do you hope happens in November?
I hope the Democrats take over the House and the Senate so that we can change things back to the way they should be.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. We are just getting ready for No King's Day, and I'm with two gentlemen who are from the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where are you from?
Baltimore, Maryland.
And why are you here today?
To be in solidarity with my union brothers and sisters here and oppose the Trump tyranny.
Absolutely. Trump hasn't been very good for union people. How has it been trying to just make ends meet these days with rising prices and cost of living?
Yeah, it's been terrible for working families with the rising cost of gas and groceries. It's really critical at this moment.
Well, thanks for coming out. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
You can see the variety of people. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah, what a wonderful cross section of those over 8 million people who turned
Yes.
out. And the thing that I love about our democracy movement, and remember, friends, here at the Contrarian, we were the first to cover it as a beat, as it was first stirring in January a year ago, more than a year ago. The thing I love about it is its whimsy. These people understand with their signs and their costumes. They understand that the best way to fight authoritarianism is with a little bit of a sense of humor. And and that was really expressed in those videos that you captured.
Absolutely. Well, we have a dear friend of the Contrarian who we're going to bring in now, the magnificent, brilliant Katie Fang. Katie, welcome. Have you defrosted yet?
Well, it definitely wasn't as cold as the last time I was here in the Twin Cities. And I just want to say thank you again to our amazing subscribers at the Contrarian, once again, getting me to what I am now calling my home away from home, which is Minneapolis, St. Paul. An incredible day. As you've heard already, more than 200,000 people showed up at the Minnesota State Capitol for an incredibly inspiring and motivational rally. And we heard from, obviously, performances like Bruce Springsteen, Joan Baez, and others. And we also heard from Bernie Sanders and Senator Tina Smith. And we got the chance to actually spend time in and amongst the crowd. There were 3 different launch locations for March feeders that kind of got everybody to convene into the one spot. For example, what you're looking at on the screen right now is this incredible art installation project that has traveled across the United States. I had the chance to speak to the artist. He explained it's the preamble to the Constitution, but that anyone could grab a pen and they could sign their name and send a message to this administration and to the world about what the Constitution means to them. You're also seeing drone footage that we took when we were outside today. That is just one of the 3 marches. That was the beginning of our day. And then this was the beginning of the state capitol rally. And this is before the more than 200,000 people showed up. But in the meantime, I was able to have some one-on-one conversations with some of the most important people that are truly making a difference right now in our fight for democracy. One of those people was a friend and just a true fighter, and that's Minnesota's Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan. Got the chance to speak to her. She's running for the United States Senate, but she is representing the people of Minnesota alongside an incredible Governor Walz. And I just wanted to play a little bit of that conversation that I had with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan.
I'm here at the Minnesota State Capitol with the incredible Lieutenant Governor of the state of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan. Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, this is the type of energy that is Minnesota, but why was it so important to make sure the community understood that No King's Day 3.0 is not only for the Twin Cities, but for the world?
Well, it's because I think what we were able to demonstrate to folks here in Minnesota is that we are not powerless. We are the power, and that is on full display with the folks who are here, but also at the over 3,000 events all across the country. Today's a good day.
So I was here more than a month ago, and it was the day after Alex Preddy was murdered. I know that you are still fighting for accountability, not only for the murders of Alex Preddy and Renee Nicole Good, but for all Minnesotans. Talk about why accountability is also at issue today.
Well, I mean, this is the point of New Kings, right? That we are a nation of individuals who believe in democracy. And so I think it's really important that accountability is part of this conversation. Donald Trump doesn't just get to do whatever he wants. And as we're talking about, the fact that the state with Attorney General Keith Ellison, has sued the federal government to have access to that evidence because of the murder of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. And this is just all about people being able to show up and demand better of their government. Part of that is accountability. We can't just be under the illusion that somehow when Donald Trump's no longer in office, that everything's going to go back, to quote unquote normal. This guy and all of his minions have to be held accountable, and there's going to have to be people who are going to be in jail too.
So one of the most inspiring things about being here in the Twin Cities is something that I have noticed, which is the level of community organization is bar none. We could all take a lesson out of watching how these communities have come together. But I want people who are tuning in to be reminded, though, it's not over. There's still rebuilding, healing, and work that's being done in these communities.
That's right. And I think it's important to know that ICE is still here.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. People think that they're gone, but they're not.
It's just more insidious now, right? They are moving to the suburbs, to rural communities. And so we will not, be satisfied until ICE is completely out of Minnesota. But to also be clear that the federal government, what they laid at our doorstep, they must restore and heal and repair. We're going to claw back that $75 billion, and then they need to reinvest in the people of Minnesota.
Your earrings, I have to note, say ICE out, sending a message. There is something that also is important, which is we have been out here in the crowds. It's little kids, it's older people that are from all races, cultures, genders. I mean, it is one of the most incredibly motivational and inspiring things to be, but this is Minnesota.
This is Minnesota. It looks like Minnesota, and it should, right? And I've heard from a bunch of folks who are like, I've never been to a protest in my life, but I'm going, to No Kings because I've had enough. So everybody is welcome here. We look out for our neighbor. We love each other, and that's who we are as Minnesotans.
Before I let you go, quick question. I know that what we need, though, is leadership in D.C. Why it's important to make sure that we have a United States Senator like you in Washington, D.C., fighting for the people of the state?
Well, I think, I'm running to make sure, right, that people can afford their lives, but also to bring justice to the people of Minnesota. Too many Democrats are fighting from a defensive crouch. It's time for us to ask for more. That's what this campaign is all about, and that's what this movement on the front lawn of the Minnesota State Capitol is all about, too.
Well, you truly have always been a fighter. I'm so grateful for you to be here today. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, for being here.
Thanks so much, Katie. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Wow, Katie, she is quite a firebrand. And if she is successful, they will have another woman in the United States Senate. It's an active Senate race. What did you get from the crowd about how they view politicians? Have they given up on politicians, or are they simply aware they've got to lead their politicians?
Minnesota is a very special place. They are incredibly fortunate to have leadership on the state, municipal, and national level from that state. Incredibly fortunate. You should have heard the cheers when Governor Walz and Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan took the stage, Jen. And there is a level of devotion and activism that I think is unique to Minnesotans. I think it is something that's why we were able to see their pushback against ICE and CBP in a way that really is something that we could all learn from. But I don't think it's just unique to them. I think it's something that we can emulate and something that we can definitely take away from. And Jen, I would say this, another one of the local leaders that definitely got a huge cheer at the rally today is the St. Paul mayor, Kali Her. She is Hmong, and she is somebody that I sat down for a long interview with when I was there a little bit ago, right after Alex Preddy was murdered, on behalf of the Contrarian. And I had the chance to speak to Mayor Her, who, by the way, was only sworn into office for just a couple of days before Renee Nicole Good was murdered. And so she's definitely had a tumultuous beginning of her tenure as mayor, but I just wanted to touch base with her quickly today to see how things were and to talk about No Kings. So let's take a listen to what she had to say as well.
I'm here at the Minnesota State Capitol. It is No Kings Day 3.0, and I am joined by the amazing mayor of St. Paul, Mayor Her. Mayor, listen, the last time you and I were together, we were just coming out of the murder of Alex Preddy. I am looking at the people here. This is truly Minnesota. Why was it so important to make sure that No King's Day 3.0 was here in Minneapolis and St. Paul?
I think it's important for people to know that what is happening under this Trump administration can extend for another 3 years for his entire term, and that he needs to see that we are together and we are united, and that he cannot push his agenda onto the people of this country.
What have you been hearing from the community? I know that I want people who are tuning in to understand ICE is still here.
Yes.
They may not see it covered in mainstream news, but they are still here in your communities.
They are, absolutely, and they're quieter and they're moving about, more not seen, and so we just have to be really careful. Our families and our communities still need help and still need support, and so I just want to make sure people know that it is still happening, and we still are needing our communities to come together and people across the country to know that however they can support us, we still need some of that.
And one of the most inspiring things that I have learned when I've always been here in the Twin Cities is the level of community organization. Is that mutual aid still going?
It is still going, and I think that now there's some more formalized aid as well. So like the legislature is pushing some funding, the Democrats of the legislature are doing that, cities have shifted some funds over, and then we still have the organizing and the support that's from communities. So now we're trying to get all of it together because our communities have a lot of needs.
And I just want to ask you, did you expect this type of crowd that we're seeing today?
The original permit was for 10,000 people.
No, this is way more.
This is amazing because this just goes to show that we know that we all have to stick together because that is the only way we're going to overcome this.
Well, you have had an inspirational term. I want to say thank you. And thank you for representing our people in the AANHPI community so amazingly. Mayor Herr from St. Paul, Minnesota. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Katie, it's been so impressive how the leaders and the average folks alike in Minnesota have transformed the tragedy of the ICE invasion, the violence, the abductions, ultimately the murders of Preti and Good, into that spirit of community that your interview with the mayor reflected. You and I were in Minnesota together for the Contrarian. Now you're back a second time. Do you think that history will look back on the events of Minnesota as a turning point in the story of this wicked regime?
I think that is 100% accurate, Norm. I also think it's tragic that Minnesota and specifically Minneapolis has been the focus of many a historical moment in our nation's history. Don't have to go as far back as George Floyd to be able to see how absolutely pivotal that moment in time was for accountability, for law enforcement reckoning, for the way that our leaders stepped up or maybe didn't, maybe failed us at a time that we needed the true clarion of leadership. I will say this, the remarkable thing about being back in the Twin Cities is the people haven't changed. They're still fighting, they're still supporting each other. And that city has become, or both cities, frankly, have become such a beacon that, for example, when I was in the Western Sculpture Park, one of the first launch of the locations of marches today, I met a couple that traveled from Maine. They could have stayed in Maine to be able to participate in No King's Day. But they specifically wanted to be in Minneapolis, St. Paul for No King's Day 3.0. They also travel across the country to protest. The gentleman, Bob, he's a veteran. And he had obviously a lot of concerns about what is happening with the war in Iran. And his wife, Charlene, said that she thought it was so important to show support for the communities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, because she said that we take them for granted often, that other people will lead the charge and will lead the fight, and that it was important for her to come and repay a debt of gratitude for those people. And so it really was so amazing to be able to talk to people in the crowds and see what motivated them to be there. I also got a chance to speak with one of our incredible coalition partners, Randy Weingarten. She's the president of the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers. And if there was ever a group that has had to carry a burden during this time, especially in places like Minneapolis, St. Paul, to take care of the children and protect them and try to bring a sense of normalcy to communities that were completely living in havoc and in anxiety and stress. It's been our teachers. And so I did get the chance to catch up with this amazing coalition leader that we have in Randy. And I just wanted to have you guys take a listen to some of the conversation that she and I had.
Alrighty, I am here at the Minnesota State Capitol, and I am joined by the incredible Randy Reingarten, the president of AFT. Randy, the AFT has been an incredible coalition partner with so many strong fighters, and yet I got to give credit to the AFT for always standing in the breach. Why is it so important to make sure that it's represented here today?
So look, we are educators, and we also believe in democracy and understand what democracy means for the people. And so what we're trying to do is act out that democracy, and this is what I mean by that. If you're in a authoritarian state or a tyrannical state, it's the leader, it's the strongman that makes all decisions. If you're in a democracy, it's the people through their representatives that make those decisions. Now, sometimes it's not fast, sometimes it's really frustrating, but for a democracy to work, it means that people have to be engaged. And that's where No Kings comes in. It is the most impressive engagement in a generation about people saying, I don't like what's going on. And so I'm going to stand up this Saturday, March 28th, or stand up at other times and stand up with other people from other coalitions and other families and other faiths and other races all across the country saying, we don't like what's going on. We need it to be better. We need it to be different. That is why No Kings is so important, because it is cross-generational. It is cross-racial. It is it is cross counties. It is rural, suburban, urban, and all today, people are saying, I want it to be different. And they may disagree on lots of other things, but the agreement here is that a president doesn't act like a king. A president doesn't act just for his billionaire buddies or his own self-interest. A president has to act for the people. And the people are saying, gas prices are too high, groceries are too high, we're looking at our retirement savings and wondering what's going on. We don't want a war, and we don't want ICE to act the way they are. That is a coalition that is basically coming together all across the country today.
And you and I made sure to come to Minneapolis, St. Paul for No Kings Day 3.0. These are communities that have been racked with violence and also intimidation for our kids in schools, especially from the AFT. What kind of message do you want to send about the disruption of kids, the beautiful, valuable education that they should be getting without being scared to go to school?
So, I mean, and that's why I'm so glad we're both here today, because we've both spent a lifetime working on behalf of children. And what happened in Minnesota is that Donald Trump and his administration tried to use it as a testing ground for fear. Because what autocrats do is that they rely on fear, isolation, and apathy. And they thought if they could actually separate out a state that is disproportionately white from its immigrant community, they could do it around the country. And Minnesota said no. Yeah. But it's not without tragedy. It's not just the tragic killing of Preddy and Good, but it is what's happening in schools all across America. Minnesota in particular, was that kids of immigrant families are not going to school. That's right. Teachers are trying to protect our immigrant families. Kids who are of non-immigrant families are seeing this and are afraid for themselves and for their friends. It has really hurt the teaching and learning environment throughout the country this year. But what I'm so proud of is that teachers and paraprofessionals working with communities are saying throughout the country, protect our children. Yes. Don't do this to our kids. Yes. Schools are sensitive locations. What are you doing? And so they are standing up, whether they are political or not, saying, no, we're protecting our kids. We're protecting our communities, we're engaging in mutual aid, and that is what Minnesota taught the country and the world.
That's right. The level of community organization has been powerful. Randy, I'm so grateful you took the time to speak with us today at the Contrarian. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Katie, terrific work. Randy, as you know, is a dear friend of the Contrarian, and we are entering a special relationship with AFT members. They're going to be gifted a few months of free subscription for all they do. Norm litigates with them, they march, they organize. So as we say goodbye to you, I got to ask you, wasn't it a thrill seeing Joan Baez sing?
I will say I was geeking out pretty hard, right? I mean, to have Bruce Springsteen and Joan Baez be singing, right? But can I share this with you guys? When I was in the sculpture park, I had the chance to meet an entire family, the mom, the dad, the 3 little girls. When I tell you they were little, they were little. I think the youngest was probably about 6 or 7. And my cousin, who's actually Korean, came all the way from Fort Collins, Colorado to be at No King's Day 3
Amazing.
with them. And I asked each one of the little girls why they were there, and they all had beautiful responses. But the littlest one said, I just want to make sure that everybody is okay. That was the biggest thrill, because I not only complimented the parents, I said, you're raising your kids right. But I thought to myself, this is what we're supposed to be doing. This is how we know that our democracy will survive, because we have people who care enough to have their kids there to see what unity, community, and the fight is all about. And so it was a thrill to see the big names, but it was even better to be able to spend time with everyone who said hi, who said, we love you, we love the Contrarian, we love everything that we're all doing together. So thank you again to all of you amazing subscribers at the Contrarian. It is truly a privilege and a gift to be able to go and be on the ground in places like Minneapolis, St. Paul on such a historic day. Thank you.
Katie, we're
Katie,
so
thank you so much. And get some sleep, warm up, and back to work you go tomorrow and Monday, because the fight goes on. We'll see you
Fight
later.
Club. Legal Fight Club with Norm. Hello, I got to come back to
Yes,
Legal Fight Club.
Katie, and indeed, Joan Baez was part of the movement. She performed at the Kennedy Center. That's one of our Contrarian cases. She was just there on Friday. Jen and the gang covered it for us. Thank you for being with us, Katie. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
And you can catch me and Katie on Katie and Norm's Legal Fight Club on the Contrarian YouTube channel. Jen, that comment of the little girl who just wants to make sure everybody is okay, that was the sentiment that was shared by these over 8 million protesters in over 3,200 different locations around the country. And for our next segment, we're going to look at places around our wonderful nation where the protests were seen. This is Boise, Idaho, Jen.
Boise, folks. This is a red America can get. Look at the size of that crowd. That is absolutely extraordinary. And Norm, that's where Democrats have sometimes fallen down. They've forgotten about rural America. They've forgotten about red states. But look at them out there. And the name of the game, of course, is for these people to stay engaged, that come November, they're going to be out fighting. They're going to be out organizing. They're going to be out as poll watchers. We'll talk more about your experience in your litigation on Coffee with Contrarians on Monday. But look at that crowd. Are you shocked to see that many people in Boise, Idaho? The whole town must be there.
Well, it's very interesting because, of course, the tragedy and horror of the past 14 months are something that none of us would voluntarily choose to have happen.
Exactly.
But in this time, the sheer incompetence of the Trump administration, and now we're moving to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, bastion in the state of Wisconsin, of the barometer of political tides, but also of protest and the historic reform tradition of the state of
Exactly.
Wisconsin. Jen, out of the horror of the past 14 months does come an opportunity for new beginnings. And I think what you're
Absolutely.
seeing with these gatherings, and it's blue places in red states, it's red places, and it's such a collection of this incredible tapestry, the best of America. There are
Absolutely.
opportunities there for a new start.
Absolutely. And you're right. Wisconsin is the swing state of all swing states. If a race is won by 1%, that's a landslide. And they're going to have both a gubernatorial race, a Senate race. They're going to have a bunch of House races, including the Wisconsin 3rd, which is one of the swing opportunities for Democrats. So it is a good thing for these people to be out and hopefully to continue their engagement. And one of the things the organizers of Indivisible ask is that people find out what they want to do next. We're now in Greenville, South Carolina. I've been in Greenville because they have a wonderful civil rights museum there. And it's not a big place, but that's a big crowd, Norm.
Yeah.
And we know that it's not a place where Democrats historically have done very well. But there are voters out there to be cultivated. Maybe not this election, maybe not the next one. You got to show up again
Yes.
and again and again. You know this, Norm, from politics, from diplomacy. You don't get a yes on the first ask. You got to go back again
Look
and
at
again.
how many times I had to lobby you to leave the Post and come
There you
start
go.
the
There you go.
Contrarian. And now
And
we're in Palm Beach Gardens,
absolutely.
Contrarians, where you see the people turning out. Again, Florida, that is a place that has been tough for the pro-democracy movement. Just as Brandeis said, the states are little labs of democracy. They can be little labs of autocracy too. And
Yeah.
Governor DeSantis, not to mention Donald Trump choosing to make his home in Florida, but the people are reacting to that and responding. And I think Florida is going to hold some surprises for people, Jen.
And Gregory, who flipped a state house seat that represents Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump is now represented by a mom, a activist. So I think she may get some calls from Mar-a-Lago, perhaps. It's all constituent service, right? We are going to bring in our dear friend, the newest member of our Contrarian editorial family, and that is Tim Dickinson. Tim,
hello,
welcome.
Friend. It's so great to be with you.
Oh,
Tim,
it's
we
great to have
love.
you.
I like your shirt, Tim.
Yes, yes. With
We
Norm in the
love
middle.
having you. We love having you as part of the Contrarian community, and in particular, your coverage from the West Coast for us. And you saw quite a day today. Why don't you tell us about it?
Well, as you know, Portland has been Donald Trump's favorite boogeyman and punching bag for many years now. And this goes back to 2020 when he showed off some of his very worst impulses, throwing gasoline on the embers of the Black Lives Matter protests that were roiling the city, tear gassing moms, snatching people off the street. BORTAC was there, all these agencies that we now are hearing about in the context of ICE raids. And so that happened. And then as this new administration took charge, there have been constant struggles at the ICE facility here in Portland, sort of long before that got into vogue nationally, right? And so there's been tear gas there. There's been all kinds of brutality. But there's also been some victories. We had, Donald Trump wanted to send in the National Guard here, and court victories turned that back. And Donald Trump, wanted to continue using tear gas here in Portland, but there was a legal victory that turned that back. And so there's a sense of, I think, Portland having avoided a much worse fate. So people here are kind of feeling their oats a little bit, like the Portland Frog and so many legal efforts helped turn the tides a bit so that, Portland didn't become Minneapolis. And so people were out in force, in joy. There were families. It was a more diverse crowd than it has been. It was a younger crowd, a more colorful crowd. And sometimes you're struck by the signs or the cleverness of people's slogans, and what there was today was so much music. There were drum lines, there were brass bands. You can watch it on the screen right now. Everywhere you went, there was just this soundtrack, and it was infectious. And I think it reminds us just how much joy is a form of resistance, right? And the connection between all these people out there standing up for democracy together. Times are very, very serious. The stakes couldn't be higher with what's going on in Iran, what's going on in the economy, what's going on with ICE, and yet to come out and experience joy together, that's what keeps us all moving forward. So it was a powerful day.
Tim, you have done some very heart-wrenching investigative reporting to us on these distribution centers, these detention centers. And it's hard simply to read about it, let alone report about it. How do you then feel when you go out and you see this joy? Does that kind of help renew you, stabilize you emotionally, mentally?
Well, what's interesting is you go in and you talk to people on the street, and you'll have this sort of wrenching explanation as to why they're there, and then you look around and there's just tens of thousands of people, and again, like this experience of people marching over one bridge and seeing the far bridge the further bridge down the river, the whole line of people on that bridge too. And so you're part of this happening. It's not really a protest. It's not really a march. It's an upwelling of real emotion and, a sense that, like, as bad as things are right now, that there's real hope and optimism for just a different and better future for our country.
Absolutely, absolutely. Did you see any politicians out and around today, Tim? Any senators or congressmen, or was it mostly activists and people?
There was at the convention center that before the main event down by the waterfront, our governor showed up and touted some of the victories that the state of Oregon has had against Trump, including when the order to withhold food stamps was lifted. The second that happened, the food stamps went out. And so that was part of it was cool. We had a lot of local celebrities out, so the Portland Chicken was there, and I talked to the original OG Portland Frog, and he was being treated like a total folk hero, people patting him on the back, and it was an extraordinary day and full of life.
Tim, as you talk to the people today and observe the organizers, what are some of the next steps that folks talked about and asked for, the calls to action? Where do we go from here?
Well, that was one of the things that the Portland Chicken had to say, was like, don't wait till, No Kings 4.0. Like, you got to figure out what it is, the thing that you're going to do tomorrow that's going to help build this, mutual aid, community resistance, the resilience of everyone around you, so that we protect each other. The federal government is hostile. And so how do we find ways to engage locally that will buttress our communities and make them resilient in the way that Minneapolis has shown us, and the way that Portland has shown us, and so many other cities?
Tim, I've gotten a chance to interview one of your senators, Jeff Merkley, who's really kind of come into his own of late. He has been a warrior for democracy. And it's sometimes I think the more soft-spoken, more intellectual types don't get the attention, but he's really come out of his shell. It's nice to see.
It's wonderful. Our national and local elected officials really punch above their weight, and I think do the West Coast proud. I wanted to make sure that we didn't miss some of the protesters that I spoke to.
Absolutely.
The first one, I think, was a unique perspective from a young woman named Dominique, if we can pull that one up.
Let's see that.
I'm out here to stand up. People of color has always did everything we could, especially black women. We have voted correctly every single time. We've done our part. It's just time for everybody else in America to show up and represent. you guys are more mad about gas prices than anything else. Like, people are dying, that's innocent. People are passing laws. Y'all act like y'all was just so mad about the pedophile shit. Y'all not. Like, be mad, be upset. Like, we should be mad as Americans. We should be mad. We should have been mad years ago. But I mean, if it takes this for us to be mad, be mad. Like, we need more as America. We deserve more. We weren't born for this. We weren't born for the hatred. We wasn't born for people to be deported out. Like, if they're escaping a different country or whatever the case may be, they should be able to do that without the hassle of somebody coming to their house and just snatching them up. Like, kids are going to ICE, like, facilities, and, like, it's just not okay. Like, America should be upset. America should be ashamed. Whoever voted for him should be ashamed. Y'all did horrible. That's exactly how I feel. Do again. Try again midterms. Try again in 2 more years, whatever the case may be, but they need to show up.
Thank you so much for sharing your mind and your heart. I really enjoyed meeting you.
Absolutely. Nice meeting you too.
Terrific. And
there's something about the people in the city, like, you just run into, I mean, it's like everybody you meet has something really sort of deep and profound to say. And this next interview with Crofton really just, like, got me. So we'll just pull that one up. Crofton, what brings you out here today? I see your sign says only she can wear the crown.
I am here today because Portland, Oregon, and the state of Oregon, I feel like, has had too much time with Trump, and he's about to ruin our old-growth forests, our clean water, and everything else. And I'm so enraged every morning that I wake up and I hear something from Trump and the administration. And I feel for my nephew, who is of age to be sent to war, and it scares the piss out of me. And I don't like what's happening in democracy right now. And Trump keeps making all these declarations that basically make him look like king, and he is not a king. He is not a king. And I just feel like a rabid feminist at this point. Hence my sign and my beautiful crown that was grown in Scappoose, Oregon, and we can eat it if we want, but right now I'm gonna wear it.
There are tens of thousands of people out here expressing much the same ideas. Does that give you a sense of hope today?
Yeah, I actually feel like crying right now because I'm so hopeful, and I haven't felt that way in a really long time. And I don't know how many people there are here right now, but it is so impressive and extraordinary and exceptional, and I know that it's happening all over the world. And this many people do not protest against one man and one regime. And I'm so glad that we're all showing up. And thank you, Contrarian, for showing up.
Thank you for taking your time and for sharing your heart.
Yeah, thanks.
Is there one person or one image from today that you think is really going to stick with you over time?
Well, I do. It's that sense of meeting the OG Portland Frog and just getting a chance to, like, I was just coming back from Seattle the other day, and there was a Portland Frog over a freeway overpass, and you were in DC, and there were, dozens of frogs out there, and just sort of seeing this one person who, against all odds, started a national meme, a movement, whatever it is, that has become a powerful symbol of resistance in this really difficult time. And so I think that idea of, like, the power of one person to create ripples that have outward effects and last for a long time and help change things, that's
absolutely
gives me heart.
And you never know what's going to do it. So if you do something, you never know what's going to connect. Tim, we cannot thank you enough. What great footage you got, great interviews, and rest up, get a good night's sleep, and then back to work tomorrow, right? We all have to write. Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much, Tim.
Good night, friends.
Take care.
Thank you, Tim.
Bye, Norm.
And now, friends, we want to bring in our Contrarian family member, a dear personal friend of Jen and mine's. She's been leading our broadcasts of today's nationwide protest, and she's America's longest serving African-American White House correspondent, queen of the merch game, April Ryan. April.
Yes!
Come
on!
Good.
Yes, Jen with her shirt. You with your hat and me.
I feel left out. I got to get in on the action.
Let me tell you, there's nobody doing it like us
today.
Yeah, there's nobody doing it like us. So look, I'm all about self-promotion, especially when it's amazing. From Jen and Norm and April and Tim and Katie, we did that thing today, didn't we?
Oh my gosh, it was so exhilarating, April, and thank you for holding down the fort. Substack had its own little problems today, but you persevered because you are a professional to end all professionals, with grace, with good humor. And some of the people you spoke to, tell us just a little bit about Reverend Barber. You spoke with him. He was so filled with soul, emotion, empathy. What did you gain from that conversation?
I gained that he's in the fight still, no matter what. It's not just Moral Mondays, it's this moment. And we talked about morality and empathy and the fact that this administration does it, these policies, they just don't have empathy for the American people. The tariffs, the gas prices, the eggs. I kept saying all day, I'm having trouble making deviled eggs for my husband. That's his favorite dish. Eggs, the price of eggs. Norm, yes, Norm. Norm looked up. You must like deviled eggs too. But the price of eggs is still
Coming
way too.
over for some deviled eggs tomorrow. But we're gonna have to take a bank loan to feed multiple
Exactly.
people deviled eggs.
Exactly. And it's about the fact that these policies are not for the average American. It's not for
Yes.
working class. People are hurting. And where's the empathy, the sympathy from on high? Not from the throne, but from the Oval Office where this man was elected to serve. So he was uh, Reverend Barber always leaves a word and he leaves you stirred. But and Jen, we didn't just talk to Reverend Barber today. We also talked to another civil rights leader, Dr. Amos Brown. Oh my gosh, he is Kamala Harris's pastor in San Francisco. But not only is he her pastor, he marched with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was one of 8 students that Dr. Martin Luther King taught, only one class at Morehouse College. And he also worked with, as the team, Medgar Evers. You can't find those kind of leaders nowadays that can talk to you about the poignance of today as it relates to yesterday. This man was part of the most one of the most formative movements in the nation, the civil rights movement. And
Yes.
he talked about the Black church and the church, and not just the church, but all religions and how religion, once again, going back to empathy, the heart. This is not just a legislative or a policy issue. This is about the heart. People are hurting and there's tone deafness. And that's what I kept hearing. And then we
Yes.
talked to Mark Morial, the head of the National Urban League. And he was clear to say, look, it's not just gas prices. It's not just food and groceries. It's tariffs too. And he kind of broke down how much families have been hit by tariffs, like at least $1,000 to $2,000 so far from tariffs. And just imagine the end of that set of tariffs and then the renewal of tariffs pretty much everywhere on the day of the State of the Union and what that brings to us or what it takes from us, really. So it's been everyone we talked to, even Mary Frances Berry, everyone I talked to talked about the importance of getting out there. And then they also linked voting. They talked about how voting in this next election will make a difference. Don't sit back. Don't complain. Don't just march. Don't sit. Just go out and go to the polls. But also one thing that was brought up, and I love the fact that Tim brought Dominique in, the fact that we're seeing a lot of the protesters who happen to be our white brothers and sisters, more white brothers and sisters than people who look like me. And Mark Morial and some of the people said, there needs to be more of an outreach to communities that look like me to bring us in because we are hurting. Typically the brunt is on us, but it's now on everybody. White farmers, right? Red states, people, everyone is hurting. It's not just Black, it's not just brown, it's everyone. And ICE is not just going after brown people. They're coming after me too. They're coming after Asians. They're coming after anyone that fits that certain profile. So this is about heart, and it's also about stopping the foolishness at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that you voted for. Well, maybe not you voted for, but those others that voted for.
And you know what's so encouraging, April? We're looking at footage now from Provo, Utah. They are answering that call to stand in solidarity, to put party aside, to reaffirm what it means to be an American, to stand by the most vulnerable who are being targeted by this regime. And April, I want to ask you a question because you talked about everybody else who's a pioneer and a leader who you interviewed today. But I want to ask you a question about one of our inspirations, one April Ryan. Because when I first met you in the CNN green room back in Trump
That was
1,
back in the day.
that was back in the day. But you know what? In some ways, you were one of the first No Kings leaders because what you did was, in the phrase of another CNN colleague, Christiane Amanpour, you were truthful, not neutral. You called it like it was. And that not only included going on air, and I thought, this lady means business. I like her. It was not only going on air, but you confronted Donald Trump also. And you saw
No, he confronted
early.
me. He confronted me.
Yes, you asked him honest, tough questions, and he didn't like it, and he confronted you.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, how did you see so early the nature of this threat that the whole country has woken up to now?
You know, that's such, Norm, I'm glad you asked that. And you know, Kamala Harris says, I told you all, I told you. I'm like, I told you before she told you. But no, but seriously, I guess it's growing up in Baltimore, Baltimore City, and going to an HBCU. What do they say? Game peeps game. I see him. I have seen people like him. I have seen people like him. Not him, but I've seen people like him. And I said, something's not right. And he was not of the ilk of what we have seen in that Oval Office at that Resolute desk. This man is someone who plays dirty. He focuses on the underbelly. And all the presidents, no matter how bad it was prior to him, I at least believed and thought that they did the best that they could do.
Yes.
At least believed that I thought that they were doing the best that they can do. This one does not care. To say, remember how he hid the words S-hole nations? You know, I didn't say that. And now what is he saying about other countries? You know, people were saying, Mr. President, are you a racist? Or, well, I asked that question, but people were saying, like, then the late, great John Lewis, we had a conversation. People in the NAACP, they say he's a racist, he's a racist. So on that weekend of MLK, the MLK weekend in 2018, I asked that. He says, I'm not a racist, I'm not a racist. But now he's clung to this white nationalist agenda that is just as racist as anything you can believe. And they don't say racist anymore. It's our kind. You know, I grew up, I'm like, I listened to Billy Porter. Billy Porter and I are friends. And he says, you know, I was the first generation after the freedoms that we gained. My parents regaled me. They went through it. I was born in 67, right after the Voting Rights Act, right after the Civil Rights Act. But now we've gotten it where they're pulling everything back, but still to understand and hear the things that they said to me, and then to see this man, they marry together. So you cannot, if it smells like a duck, looks like a duck and waddles like a duck and is orange like a duck, it's a duck or yellowish orange, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
And
we all saw Donald Trump. We saw it, but people didn't want to believe it.
you know, April, when people tell you who they are, you got to believe them. And you have seen him from day one. And you're right, he's of a type. April, we cannot thank you enough for your Herculean duty all day long. I hope you
Amazing.
get some rest. I hope you get to do something fun on your Sunday. And we will look forward to seeing you for the next tea.
Yes, the tea next
Tea
Thursday.
with deviled eggs.
Yes, Norma, I'm gonna make sure you get deviled eggs. I'm not talking about the
Thank
kind.
you, April.
I'm not talking about the frou-frou kind with the bacon on top and the salmon or the crab or the shrimp. I'm talking about the kind where it's mayonnaise and a
Egg.
little mustard and a little relish and a little paprika on the top. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
No one turns my deviled eggs down.
Well, we're going to have to increase your expense report for that one, your expense allowance. Bye-bye, April. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
We love you.
April.
Wow.
Well, Jen, what an extraordinary assortment of people we've seen today from our Contrarian family, but also just on this broadcast alone, we've seen thousands of people marching by on the videos all over the country. And I think you have one last video for us.
We do. Here is a montage of what I saw in Anacostia today. What a memorable day. Let's take a look.
You can see an enormous crowd has formed on this side of the Anacostia River. We're going to march over the Anacostia River on the Frederick Douglass Jr. Bridge. But the crowd has pushed way down the street here. There are multiple thousands of people. I'm not a great crowd estimator, but it's a very large crowd. And we have the Washington, D.C. Mass Choir here. We've got frogs. We've had a lot of union membership. We see a lot of people from AFSCME, from SEIU, from AFT, many of our good friends from the Contrarian. The mood out here is very joyous, very festive. There is a good mix this time, more than I've seen before, of ages, races. We are walking over the Frederick Douglass Bridge. The crowd is huge, enthusiastic. You can see across the Anacostia River here, over to the baseball stadium, and down the river there towards Georgetown and the rest of D.C. We are leaving what used to be called Uniontown, now is known as Anacostia. It is the most African-American part of our wonderful city. About 92% of the population is African-American. And the crowd today was the most diverse in terms of age, race that I have seen at any No Kings gathering. A tremendous turnout by labor, AFSCME, SEIU, AFT, and many others. It has been an uplifting experience being out here. And I told you, when you get out and join your fellow Americans, you will feel energized, powerful, and hopeful. We have arrived at Fort McNair. Supposedly, there are a bunch of regime people holed up there. I don't know what they have to fear from their fellow Americans, but obviously they do. The marchers are continuing to stream by. The songs are going, the cheers are going. It's been quite a day, friends. And I think what we saw today is very determined people, very energetic people. A lot of people who perhaps haven't turned out before, much more variety in age and demographics than we've seen before. And a lot of dogs too, which has been nice to see. A lot of kids as well. We have reached the gates, or at least the wall of Fort McNair. That's where Stephen Miller and perhaps other members of the administration are being housed. Why they feel they have to be housed behind closed doors and high walls, I don't know. But that really is the sign of a dictatorship, when the people who have assumed power can't be among the people. The crowd is kind of stalled here as we wait to make the bend, but the crowd is still very energetic. They're still chanting, and people are in a remarkably good mood.
Who wouldn't be in a good mood?
It was really so uplifting, Norm. You could see I was having a good time out there.
Yes.
As windy as it was.
It was so fun to watch Jen watching the video because she was enjoying seeing all the people and reliving the day. Jen, throughout the spirit of watching that montage, but everything we've covered in this hour-plus wrap-up, the thing that emerges for me is that, yes, the devastation, death, and destruction of the past 14 months have been shocking. But the pro-democracy energy and pushback and organization, starting with that lonely sparks of the litigation that our contrarians help support with their paying subscriptions, and then seeing that spread across the country into this powerful movement that I think is going to be an absolute blue tsunami come fall. Our contrarian colors are very well selected.
Absolutely. And we spent a lot of time on that logo, by the way, friends. The starting Contrarian was easier than all the little details, but that's all right. The devil is in the details, or maybe God is in the details. It's been such a pleasure, Norm, and such a pleasure to see our growing Contrarian family. Thank you to all of you who came up and said hello. It is so heartwarming for me to hear how much the Contrarian means to all of you. So when you see one of us out and about, come over, say hi, take a selfie. We are going to take you out with a beautiful choir that made its appearance in Anacostia and went over the bridge with us. And they will give you a sense of uplift and joy that I felt when I heard them. So I think that's all that we will have for tonight. Enjoy the chorus. Norm and I will be back on Monday, Coffee with Contrarians. Get some rest, Norm. I know you've been litigating up a storm, reporting
bright
up a
and
storm.
early Monday morning. And what better way to end this magnificent No King's Day across the country, around the world, than with some music and some joy.
Absolutely.
One foot in front of the other, and lead with love. One foot in front of the other, and lead with love. Oh, one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. I know you're scared. I know you're scared. And I'm scared too. And I'm scared too. But here we are. But here we are. Right next to you, you gotta put one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. Oh, one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other, and lead with love. Oh, one foot in front of the other, and lead with love, and lead with love. And lead darkest hour, hope lingers here. I will not hate, and I will not fear in our darkest hour. Hope lingers here. Hope lingers on my country when justice is on my country.